Hey everybody, it's Zach Clayton. I am here with the amazing goddess of the grapes, Stephanie Simoes, and Dennis Schrader from the Price of Freedom Foundation, and my brother, Mr. Z. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Brilliant. Thank you for asking.
Um, we have a little bit of an interesting show for you today because, as many of you guys know, I do a Wednesday night podcast, and we try to. The dogs wanted to say something. My co-hosts are apparently mad because they didn't get to talk, but but we're going to replay this interview because it has so many different things, and just to give you three a little bit of an idea on what's going on, she runs a program where her middle daughter became had issues and became depressed and tried to take her life. And they went through and they did a lot of things. And after years and years of making sure and finding out things, and this is one of the things that we talk about, and this was probably one of the things was that caught my mind the most, is that she took, and what she did was she left it up to, or she had it in her mind, my daughter's getting help, I'm going to back off. We come to find out, and Dennis, I'm pretty sure you've heard this story before, that can't happen because her during this time her daughter was still attempting to take her life on different occasions. So have you ever heard a story like that, Dennis?
You know, I haven't been as actively involved in the mental health industry as many others have. I have not actually heard of that. I was actually thinking about a friend of mine from the Army, Colonel Randall Schwally, who was talking about, and I knew his daughters from when we served together, and I remember several conversations where he was talking about his youngest daughter, and her, um, she had at least one. I'm thinking it was more suicide attempts, and so I don't really. I mean, I just remember him going through all kinds of turmoil and doing whatever they could um, to save her life, to basically give her a reason to live. She has survived all of that, and she's now in her 20s. But I was just, as you were mentioning that, I was thinking about, and I was about to surreptitiously send a text message to my friend to say, hey, this might be something that you could provide some personal insight into as well. So
The wonderful thing about this is, and you guys will learn about this a little bit more as we play this. And unfortunately, just to let you guys know, we're not going to be able to respond because this runs over our allotted time. And as business people, unfortunately, we've got top of the hour commitments. But we will be talking about this video more next week on the show. But their process is 4 questions. That's all it is. It's 4 questions, but it's so amazing and it works because the and the first 3 questions, guys, are yes or no. But the question number 4 is the one that's going to make them start to think. It's going to give them a little bit of, well, like I said, it's going to make them think. It's going to give them a little bit of direction and make them kind of really think about things that are going on in their lives. So I really think that you guys are going to enjoy. Geez, everything I've got's talking now. Real professional I am today. So what I would like to do first is I would like Stephanie, please give us an introduction of who you are and what you've got going on.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Simoes. I am a cause entrepreneur with One Hope Wine. What that means is I partner with nonprofits and people to help with fundraising through wine throughout the year. And that has kind of led us into veteran housing, which is really cool. I've learned so much from these nonprofits I've worked with about the homelessness crisis with our veterans, and it's kind of inspired us. And our small business to kind of take that in a different direction. So if you'd like more information, my link tree is on the screen. You can contact me on socials there. Love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. And yeah, as she said, the link tree is right there for you guys to look at. Trying to get the other things set up, so this is going real well. Dennis, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Price of Freedom Foundation and how people can get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, my name is Dennis Schroeder. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Army. Spent 24 years in service there. About a little bit more than 4 years ago, I started the Price of Freedom Foundation. It is dedicated to telling the complete life stories of our fallen, those who died while in military service to our nation, and to do so in depth. So as we are approaching Memorial Day, we're going to see lots of memorials to our honored fallen, but most of them are going to be, by necessity, fairly abbreviated. We believe that they and their sacrifice deserves more, and their families and friends and our nation really deserve to have the opportunity to know who they were as a total person. So that's what we do. We produce books, and we intend to produce video documentaries, and our first story is out and available on all of the online retailers, booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. It's called Silent Soul, the Machinist Mate First Class Alfonso Abdel Amos story, and you can find it either by searching that or the Price of Freedom Chronicles on any of those sites.
Thank you, Dennis. And if you guys want to find out more about Dennis, please go to our any of our pages, and you're going to be able to find out Dennis's story. He's not only part of our team, but he was our very first guest, and we got to learn a lot more about him. Right now, if you check out Stephanie's link tree, it's going to take you to the Community Pay It Forward One Hope Wine Facebook page. And Dennis was also one of the people that we are trying to raise money for. So, you can always find out more about Dennis. So thank you very much, sir. Mr. Z, let's get some info about you to all of our wonderful, wonderful people.
Thank you. Lots of wonderful people here, just like your audience and everybody here. And thank you, my brother from another mother, for having me here. And hello, world. My name is Z, or you can call me Mr. Z. I am a web developer, and I am also a consultant that specializes in helping nonprofits, veteran business owners, and entrepreneurs like yourselves who are looking to announce upcoming events, book online appointments, or perhaps accept donations and sell products without the use of eBay or Jeff Bezos. I also provide a free consultation to those who are looking to get started on their brand new website, and to those that have an existing website, but they're not comfortable with the idea of making changes to the code of their website, whether it's WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, or more. So, with that being said, if you are looking to modify, develop, or redevelop a custom ADA compliant website that is specifically catered to your needs, well, let's develop a website Z World is waiting for. Thank you very much, and back to you.
You know what? You're missing your logo up top. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's the Peg channel, everybody. I want a coattail, like a parasite.
It's actually kind of it made me a little verklempt, if you will, because I used to sit there in our networking meetings and listen to that all the time, and I always loved the Z World is waiting things. So
good observation.
And we are working on getting all of the stuff out. Okay, the Facebook pages. Uh, Z is working diligently on getting all the code and everything that we need for the websites to where we can put the footprints forward on all of our websites and make sure that it's there for you guys to use and use for anybody who's out there that needs it. And we did come up with something today that is a very important part of what we're doing. And I'm just going to flat out give her the credit because Stephanie provided us with our brand new mission statement, and it's providing resources and sharing stories to support mental health and suicide prevention in a forward direction. So that's what the four of us and the six other people that you don't see right now. That's what we've all gotten together for. We've gotten together because suicide is a problem. 2020 ended with us losing one person every 11 seconds. And everybody that we bring on is going to try to do their very best to provide someone with some type of support. And as I've stated a million times, and I know a lot of you guys are getting sick of hearing it, every single one of us, we heal differently. We want to make sure that we bring healing resources for everyone that's out there. So please, if you know anybody who falls into line or anybody who has a story that they want to tell or anything like that, just have them reach out on my For My card or go to communitypayitforward.us. Once again, that's communitypayitforward.us. Call me out. Say, hey, we've got somebody who I'd like for you to talk to. If your business has anything to do with trying to help people through mental health difficulties or suicide, if you yourself have a story or know somebody who's got a story, win, lose, they're all stories that need to be told. So just please reach out to us and we'll do our best to bring you on and tell your story and see who we can help. So okay, guys. Well, very short show for us today because now we get to kick back and watch as I did this interview, and it's like I was telling Stephanie and Z earlier, Dennis. It's kind of one of those things that I have a habit of saying, yeah, this is a great interview, but it makes it sound like I'm good. No, I'm not any good. It's the people I talk to that are so good, and that is truly the story here, because they've got a program that it's aimed at teen suicide, but what this is the the way that they put it together. 4 questions can be used for anyone. So I'm going to start the interview because I want you guys to go on ahead and see it instead of me ruining it. But let's do this, and then once again, we will all be back next week to give our views on what we see here. If you do have any questions, please make sure that you reach out to us because we're all willing to talk about this. That's the reason we do this. So for Stephanie, Dennis, Mr. Z, and myself, please enjoy this video. It is a little bit longer, but we will see you next week. But this video is so very important, so I hope that you enjoy it. Please make sure that you take care of somebody because people out there, they need your help. Okay, make sure you never walk away because you don't know if that's going to be the last time if you ever, that you ever see them. So we will see you next week. Thank you very much. All right, so we're having a problem with the sound again, and I don't understand why. So give me just a second. Let me see what I can do here. And oh, darn thing. Usually it's got a button on there um, that says share the sound, but it's not doing that right now. Let me see if I can find it here. So this is, I know, compelling, right? The best, the best show in the world. Yeah, there you go, Z. Very compelling. Yep. So, uh, oh, this is wonderful. Oh, April, was it April 5th? No, that couldn't have been it. So, um, all right. Well, let me see what I can do on trying to share it here. Share screen again. Entire screen. Ah, okay. Ah, and here's Trevor. Let me do this real quick. Um, hey Trevor, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you, Zach. And how about you?
We're doing great. We ran into a little bit of a problem, and
Okay.
the person for the interview is not able to be here today. But I have a recording of her, but it's running a little bit it runs a little bit long. So what we're doing, because of time constraints for everyone, what we're going to do is we're going to play the video, and then at the end of the video, we'll all come on next week and talk about the video. But can you do me a huge favor, and can you introduce yourself and tell people how to get a hold of you?
I can do that. I am the web detective, also known as Trevor Gibbs. I help to protect and serve your brand, primarily looking at your online digital thumbprint. The best way to get hold of me is to use email, which is trevor at thewebdetective.online. Or if you go to LinkedIn, you can find me there. On Alignable, you can find me there. But obviously, our Zach Clayton, he has all the details too. So he'll hook you up.
All you got to do is go to the community pay it forward giving partners, because that is what Trevor is. Z is right along with him. You go to 88 compliance, you click on that, and you can find either one of these gentlemen. So, but Mr. Trevor, please either join us or watch us online, and then we're going to come back next week and we're going to talk about this interview.
Okay, sounds good.
So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we've got this right. So here we go. We're going to try it again. We do have a couple things to announce. One, Mayday, we have a problem is now. Wow, she's excited. Is knowing under footprints forward. And we're using the saying that I created on the 22nd, which is no matter how softly you walk, you still leave footprints. Meaning that whoever you are, if you think people are not going to miss you, if you commit suicide, you are wrong. There's going to be people who there's going to miss you a lot. One other announcement that we've got is the day that we are going to announce the date for the Chili Cook-Off and Toy Drive for 2023 with Key Largo Lounge. Number 6 is here now. Wow, excited much. But it is the second Wednesday of the month, and that means that I am joined by my very, very, very special co-host. Let me try that again. Co-host, because he's not a co-host, he's a co-host. Mr. Les Simpson. How's it going, Les? My co-host.
How are you?
I don't know. Apparently, I forgot how to speak in between the time I press play.
I think you have some meat on your hands or something. The dog.
Yeah. I'm being attacked by my own dog. I don't know. So, so Les, you got a very special guest with us today. Why don't you go on ahead and make the introduction, and we'll pull her on up.
Sure. This is Jackie Simmons. She's world famous speaker, author, and she has a nonprofit about teenage suicide. But I was telling her about this veteran group, and she said adults work just as well. And so she really wants to educate us on what causes the problems and what we can do about them, because she is the expert on this. And I'm very excited. She's done TED Talks. For anybody that knows what that is, that's a very special talk that only certain people get to do. She's done them. And now she's going to actually reiterate it on this show, which is quite a privilege for us to watch.
Well, that's great. And so we are thrilled to bring on Mrs. Jackie Simmons. How are you doing, Jackie?
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm very, very happy that you are joining us. Yes, February 22nd, for the last 2 years, I've done a 22-hour podcast that was about veteran suicide, because the numbers were, they are what they are. And one of the things that my studies have brought up were the number that caught me most off guard was the one that put up in that video, and that by the end of 2020, unfortunately, we had one suicide every 11 seconds in America. So tell us a little bit about your program, and then we are looking for someone, if you would like to learn more about this and see how the program works. We're looking for a volunteer. If we don't have a volunteer, I volunteer.
All right. Before somebody volunteers, permission to interrupt, sir.
Yeah.
Before somebody volunteers, let's let them know what they're volunteering for.
I should ask you before I volunteer, because if you make me cry, well, that'll be funny, and it could only make my ratings better. So.
Well, there's something special that happened on January 21st of 2021. I'm sorry, January 16th through 2021. That's when I stood on a TEDx stage in a ghost town known as Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It was the height of COVID. There was no traffic moving on Las Vegas Boulevard. There were no pedestrians. Vegas was dark and it was quiet. And when I walked into the room of my TEDx, the only audience that Vegas would allow was the other speakers. So while I stood on a TEDx stage in Las Vegas, it's not what most people experience. I'd like to take you back there with me for just a few moments, with your permission. We're going to visit my journey that got me to this TEDx stage after we have the talk that saves lives. That's what we'll be volunteering for. We started with 3,000 a day. 3,000 a day. That's the number of teenagers who attempt to take their own lives every day, just in the USA. By August of 2020, oh, by the way, that number is from August 3rd, 2019. Come back to that date. August of 2020, the Center for Disease Control said that 25%, 1 out of 4 of every young adult is suicidal thinking. Think 4 people you know between the 14 and 24. One of them is struggling to stay alive. And that's what we've learned. It's summer. And in the summer of 1995, in June, at the start of summer vacation, none of this was on my mind. My 3 daughters were in high school and middle school. They were getting ready for their summer trip to visit their dad and his family 1 state away. 3 daughters, travel means only one thing: shopping. My middle daughter, Stephanie, was in between her sisters, in between schools, and in between clothing sizes. Any woman knows where I'm going with this. Shopping became an adventure. Outfit after outfit, store after store, nothing fit her. And at the end of the day, we came home with nothing except an attitude. Stephanie stormed upstairs and into her bathroom, and I collapsed on the sofa, grateful to be off my feet. Peace and quiet. And then, Mom, I think I need help. My eyes were drawn to Stephanie's left arm. Blood was dripping off her fingers on the floor. The emotional part of my brain started screaming in terror at the sight of my bleeding, obviously suicidal child. The rational part of my brain started flipping through files in my head, trying to remember the date of her last tetanus shot. Have you ever been panicky and calm at the same time? I wrapped her arm, held her tight, and assessed the wounds. They were not life-threatening. We made plans to see, we bandaged it up, made plans to visit the local teen mental health facility the next day, made the appointments. Eventually, all the tears stopped. All the mutual I'm sorries were shared, and she slept. I couldn't risk being away from her, so we slept in the living room on the futon. And between us, her hand note, her promise not to harm herself while I slept. Yeah, right, like I was going to close my eyes that night? All night, I stared into the darkness in the direction of the ceiling, listened to her breathe, and wondered, what just happened? How the hell did this happen? Who's to blame? It had to be somebody's fault. What followed? Years, counseling, therapy, medications, interventions, hospitalizations, and 13 more attempts. I sold myself on the idea that as long as Stephanie was getting professional help, we didn't need to talk about it. The truth was, I didn't want to talk about it. Would you? Would you want to know what would make your child unhappy that they dying was better than living? I didn't want to know, so I didn't ask. And then, August 3rd, 2019, Stephanie is giving a 7-minute talk, a message that matters. The hotel, the conference center on the outside of Sarasota, Florida. It was already hot that morning. I walked into the conference room and greeted the 12 speakers that I trained. Oh my God, Stephanie looked amazing with her hair pulled back, and a flowery top, bright skirt. She was in that nervous, kind of excited state you get into right before you give a talk. She was the first one up. The audience took their seats and the lights dimmed. Everyone help me welcome Stephanie Ashton. Oh my God, I was so proud of her. She walked up confidently, shook my hand, and with a startling statistic, 3,000 a day. That number of teens lives every day. In the back of the room, I was stunned twice. First, because I had no idea the number was that large. And second, because I had no idea suicide was her topic. Her next sentence. When I was after a bad day of shopping, I stood in my back of not fitting any clothes was just more proof that I didn't fit in anywhere. And that pain was more than I could bear. So I took a razor and cut into my left arm, trying to end the pain and my life. in the back of the room, I felt the blood drain from my face. I felt myself go pale. I wasn't prepared for this to be happening. And Stephanie continued. She said, outside of professional help, it's not my only attempt. There were others. And outside of professional help, we've never really talked about it. I've never really talked about it, especially not with Mom. Mom and I kind of talked around it. It was too personal, too painful. Mom had others. We had to talk about sex. We had to talk about drugs. We had to talk about alcohol. Then I went to college on a dry campus. Oh, that means the kegs are hidden in the showers at the girls' dorm. We had to talk about alcohol more than once. But we never talked about suicide. And the truth is, I still struggle with suicidal thoughts. In the back of the room, I went from pale to bone cold as I faced the reality of the struggles that my daughter had to go through alone because I didn't have the courage to talk about suicide. Only my 30 years of management training kept me from crawling into a corner and just crying my eyes out. Have you ever been hijacked by a bad memory? Stephanie wound up her talk. Along my suicide avoidant journey, I've learned a ton of coping skills. Now, I want to get these skills to teenagers before they need them. Yes, before they need them. Oh my God, there wasn't a dry eye in the house, including mine. Stephanie got a standing ovation. People rushed up and they hugged her and they thanked her for being so brave, so willing, so vulnerable. And in the back of the room, I was frozen, rooted in place, torn between pride for her bravery and guilt and shame for my cowardice. After that day, Stephanie and I decided to work together. Who knew that was possible? We founded the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. But before that could happen, something else happened that day when I was standing in the back of the room. It hit me. 3,000 a day, the number of teens who attempt to take their own lives every day, means that over 6,000 parents start to live the guilt nightmare that I lived. That means that over 20,000 grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, and sisters start to live the guilt nightmare that I've lived every day. This means every day that hundreds of thousands of classmates, teachers, neighbors, boyfriends, and girlfriends all start to live the guilt nightmare that I'd lived. Probably all just as blindsided by it as I had been. And then I wondered, what if Stephanie was right? What if the key to ending teen suicide was as simple as having the talk before they need it? Before they need it. Oh my God, something so simple and obvious that experts have tripped over it. Simple and obvious, like putting wheels on luggage, kind of obvious, or putting ketchup in bottles that you can squeeze. Simple and obvious. When we started working together, we wrote a book. 20 authors came together sharing their inspiring story. The goal was the book in the hands of teens. So I took a case of books to the local high school. We had a group. I shared our vision that we would give books out to teens for free. And they could use the stories to help break the silence with their friends. And after we went around and I shared it all, then I asked the kids in the room, do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried on? And they went around the room, one after the other. One young lady lost her first friend to suicide in elementary school, and her second friend just the year before. She was only a sophomore. When I was done at the high school, I went out into my car and sat there and cried because it was not just some of the kids or most of the kids, it was all of them. 100% of the kids in the room had a story, and I'll bet their parents were just as clueless as I had been. So we decided nonprofit, and because the world loves a good joke, the Teen Suicide Prevention Society was founded officially as a nonprofit on April 1st, 2020, the day they closed all the schools in Florida for COVID. So we couldn't get into the schools. We couldn't reach out. So what we did was take and pivot. And we started teaching people how to have the talk that saves lives. The talk that saves lives is a simple, guided, neuroscience-based script. It is very, very easy. And we started teaching it to parents and teachers and teens. And what we found was that it works. Tammy had the talk with her troubled son. They cried together. He agreed to get professional help. Raphael shared his stories with us. He has reported back to us that the talk has saved 16 lives. 16 teenage girls have decided to stay. He works with troubled teens. Now it's going to be your turn. The talk is super simple. It's available for free on our website. You can get the guide for the talk that saves lives. Along with it, you can get the Why Not workbook. Don't wait. We want you to have the talk, but we don't want you to go into it blind. So before you go to get the guide, let's let you be part of the talk. So here's the invitation. Hey, I've decided to be part of the mission to end veteran suicide. They gave me a guide. I need to practice. Would you be willing to help me practice my guide? And if you are, follow the instructions from Zach. We'll bring you up and you will get to be the first contestant on the talk that saves lives. And otherwise, I'm volunteering Zach, assuming you're still willing.
Oh, I'm still willing. First off, it's terribly important story. And that's what I've got to say. One of the things that I think is so important about your story is it's something that we're parroting quite a bit. Is that look, there are things out here that if you're not, in which I can understand, as a mom, you're thinking that you put your child's life into the hands of a professional, so everything should be okay now. Everything should be okay. This is the way, this is the way it's supposed to be. Where I back out, I let them do what they do, and they take care of this. That absolutely is not the way it should be, though. You can't let it be that way.
Here's what happened, and there are probably other people who've heard this. Have you ever heard somebody say, but if I talk about suicide, won't I be putting the idea into their head? No. That's a myth. It's a myth. I loved what you all have on your pictures where you say silence is deadly, because we absolutely know that it's true. The Center for Disease Control says that the refusal to talk about suicide is in and of itself a risk factor for suicide.
Yeah.
So silence isn't golden. Silence is deadly on this topic. So what we've done is create the tools that make it safe. Because here's what we've learned. The number one reason that people do not want to talk about suicide, according to my daughter, she's an expert, she didn't want to be a burden on the family. The number two reason we've discovered that people do not want to talk about suicide is not want to be made to go see someone. Why? Because they often have a traumatic background. And what we have known to be true is that starting with oh my God, for Stephanie, every time she started with a new doctor or a new therapist, she had to tell her history again. And she went backwards, not forwards. It was re-traumatizing to the extreme. Oh, so by the way, at my company and at the nonprofit, our prime directive, no one gets re-traumatized on our watch. That's why it's a scripted talk. Someone using the guide has to commit that they will read it. That's why the invitation is worded the way that it is. They gave me a guide. I need to practice. The person you're practicing with knows you are going to be reading the guide. This prevents direct eye contact. Absolutely important. You're reading the guide. You're creating a safe space. They know that you don't think they're at risk of suicide. They're only having this conversation with you to help you. Guess what you've just done? The minute you ask someone to help you, you have lit up the pleasure center of their brain. Their interior, their internal 3-year-old is going, oh, goody, goody, I get to help, I get to help. Teenagers still want to help. They just don't jump up and down quite so much. So they get to help. You've lit up that part of the brain. You're already building out an emotional buffer for them on this topic. This is critical. So do we have a volunteer, Zach, or is it going to be you?
Looks like it's going to be me, but I've got one question for you real quick, Jackie. One of the other things that we've been really putting an emphasis on is that, you know what, if you are not the one who can talk, because there are people who just physically and mentally cannot handle the talk themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, how important is it to go and find somebody who is strong enough to do it?
Okay, you're talking about something that I want to highlight, a significant difference. You're talking about a conversation designed to intervene in suicidal thinking. That's in the hands of an intervention specialist. And there are trainings for that. That's not us. We are a pure prevention program provider. We are way upstream. That's why the invitation's worded that way. And here's why. COVID started shutting everything down. Most of the networking went online. And even when the networking started being in person again, the same thing held true. As soon as someone knew that I was connected with the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, the private chats would start. If not to me, then to post. What did I learn in my very unscientific experience? There's one in every room, at least. In every room, there is at least one person grieving the loss of a loved one to suicide. And in every room I walk into, there is at least one person struggling to stay alive. And the truth is, you can't tell by looking. You can't tell by looking. So here's the other thing the Center for Disease Control says. The number one risk group in the world for suicide is the person who's had a previous attempt. The second highest risk group for suicide in the world is you. If you know someone who's tried or died. You. How do I know it's you? Because I'll bet you know a celebrity chef, a gifted singer, a talented comedian. And thanks to media, we are all in a higher risk group than we used to be. Oh, and here's my rant on the topic. If you're a celebrity, you don't have the right to take your own life. Because the minute you do, everyone who has followed you is now at a higher risk for taking their own life because of something in the brain called a mirror neuron. I believe that if you're a celebrity, you have to step up and get help, or step back and get out of the limelight.
There's that young little girl who had it, and I wish that I would have known that this was coming up, because I'd love to give her the credit. But I know that she has dealt with a lot of mental issues, and as a performer, she was a child performer, and she fully comes out and admits, "Look, I had a problem. I had to step away. I had to," and I love that statement that you just said. The other thing that I love is, the number one person we have to worry about is somebody who's tried, and it's because it's there. It's there. All right. And look, if you leave a conversation that is not completed, you may never get to finish that conversation. And so, I love what you're doing here. just to kind of give you a little bit of a background on me. As I mentioned right before this, I do the 22-hour podcast about veteran suicide on the 2nd of February every year. 3 weeks prior to that, I had someone very, very, very special to me who ended her life. And so I did that 22-hour podcast with the toughest memory, and it was one of the toughest things I have ever done, was sitting there and knowing that I'm sitting here trying to tell these people not to end their life, these heroes not to end their lives, yet I couldn't reach out to this person, or I didn't reach out to this person in time. And so I think that, this that we're about ready to go through, I think it's very, very poignant. I think it might be perfect timing. I think that we were going to say that this could be something that we were looking for a volunteer, but now I volunteer. I want to see this happen.
Thank you, Zach, for volunteering. It's only 4 questions. Are you ready?
I am very ready.
Question 1. Zach, have you heard about the rise in veteran suicide?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot to give you the rules. The rules are, for the first 3 questions, you can only answer yes or no. And then on the 4th question, you can tell me as much as you want. Sound good?
Boy, it's a good thing you said that, because you can ask less. I don't shut up. So yes.
All right, good. We'll start over so everyone can get this. Question 1. Zach, have you heard about the rise in veteran suicides?
Yes.
Thank you. Question 2. Do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died?
Yes.
Thank you. Zach, question 3. Have you ever thought of leaving that way?
No.
Thank you. Question 4. Hey, Zach, why stay? What are your reasons for staying?
You mentioned it earlier. My sons, my family, my new wife, our kids that I don't even know yet, and my new grandkids that I haven't had a chance to be around. And I offer something to people.
Why else?
And look, there's no, what would it prove other than,
Hey, Zach, I'm going to ask it another way. Let's make it a little easier.
okay, good, because yeah.
Here we go. You ready? Here we go. Another way to look at this. Zach, what's so good about your life that you want more of it?
For me, that answer is very simple. Change. Life changes. I went from a motorcycle accident where I almost died to where I am now, trying to help other people live. And now I got both of my co-hosts here. Apparently my dogs wanted to be not left out. Yes, I don't want to die because of you too, even though your breath stinks.
Dogs are very in tune to the emotions. What everyone saw, and you might have felt, is that when you started talking about your reasons for staying, your whole demeanor changed. Your energy changed. Your voice tone changed. And so here's what happened in the brain. We very strategically, with very neutral language, agitated the broad topic of veteran suicide. Then we brought it closer to home, and then we brought it inside. And so what that does is fire up all the electricity in the neural network that still holds grief and angst on the topic. And then with question 4, we flipped the switch. We redirected, I'll use better language. We redirected all of that energy into a new neural pathway labeled reasons for staying. And then the more reasons that you came up with, the more your brain searched for what's so good in your life that you want more of it. You were building out an entire neural network. So now when you have a naturally occurring thought of leaving, because Freud said suicidal thoughts are normal, they're part of our worst case scenario problem solving mechanism of the brain. So there's no problem when they don't stay around. So what happens now is you have a thought of leaving, it's going to hit this new filter in your reticular activating system in the RAS, and it's not going to hang around. It's like coating you with a Teflon. So congratulations. You now have a buffer between yourself and an edge that I don't need to know whether or not you were near, and you may not even know you were near.
Jackie, let me ask you a question, and this is something that I strongly believe in, and I kind of see a correlation here of these two. I always tell people, 17 years ago, I quit smoking, and I was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and I quit on that day. I still had 3 cigarettes in my pack. I still had 3 unopened packs, but I set the time, I set the date, and I said, I am done on this day, and I have not smoked another cigarette since. I tell people I was able to do this because I wanted to quit. I wanted it more than I wanted to smoke. Is that are we kind of talking the same thing here? Because it wasn't, I think I want to quit. This was, no, I'm quitting. I'm done. It's
what
not
we're doing is building out the same motivation. So Zach, to peel this back, why? Why not stay a smoker? What was going on in your head? Why not continue to smoke?
Oh, that again, I'm going to answer the same question I did with the why wouldn't I leave? My sons. My sons came up to me and asked me to quit, and that was the first thing. I couldn't get through eating a meal without smoking a cigarette. I could not get a night's sleep without waking up to smoke.
Why not stay a smoker? Because you wanted to sleep through the night.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to enjoy a whole meal. Because you wanted to be around for your kids, and your kids had identified that you might not make it if you didn't quit.
Yep.
These are your reasons. And so this is the premise behind the Why Not Workbook. And you're right. It's exactly the same thing. When you start adding up, we call this building up evidence. When you start adding up evidence, building up evidence that life is worth living, that there are things you still want, that there are things you enjoy. But you can't just go up to somebody and ask them what they want. It really requires the pathway to be effective. Because remember, what we're doing is intentionally building up the electricity and angst on this topic using specific neutral language that you read. And then we're stealing it and redirecting it into the pathway that builds the buffer between someone and an edge that they may not even know they're near. Now, I want to give the disclaimer for any of you who have loved ones that you're worried about. If someone answers yes to question 3, yes, they've had thoughts of leaving. Again, it's really neutral language. They've had thoughts of leaving, and they answer no to question 4. They have no reasons for staying. We say stay with them and dial 911. Oh, they might hate you for it. And you might save their life. But Zach, you've been around this topic a long time, especially with veterans, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we've been around it for a day or two.
All right. So here's my question for you. Now that you've experienced this talk, and you know that we work with people of all ages, all walks of life. I work with vets all the time. Zach, what percentage of people do you think have had that experience that we've had the talk and they've said yes to question 3, they've had thoughts of leaving, and no to question 4, they had no reasons for staying? Just a percentage. What do you think?
That's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, just a guess.
Because truthfully, thankfully, everybody that we've talked to so far has recovered or is on the way to recovery.
Right. So remember, you're talking about an at-risk and known at-risk population. I'm talking about the population in general.
So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say over half. I mean, we know look, and we say it all the time. It was at one point in time where we would say that every single one of us knows somebody who's had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
We're this way about suicide now. Every
Right.
single one of us knows someone.
Right. So that's question 2. Do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died? The question is, when someone says yes, they've had thoughts of leaving, to question 3. And when I ask question 4, when someone asks question 4, what are your reasons for staying? Why stay? They said nothing. 0 reasons for staying. That's the red flag. You call 911. You don't wait. You stay with them. How many do you think there have been out of the thousands of talks? Just a percentage.
I'm going to say with your program, with the way that it's thoughtfully put together, I say that the number's probably pretty low, probably about 15%.
That's pretty around the ballpark of what people guess. The truth, 0. 0. 0. And the reason is because people who are masking depression and suicidal thinking will lie.
Yeah.
They will lie. And you know what's so great about it when they lie? Their unconscious mind is to give answers to the questions, reasons for staying. And even though they're making them up, their brain is building out the same file folder in their head labeled reasons for staying. It builds out the same buffer, even if they lie. And disclaimer, sorry guys, I kind of forgot to mention this, but every single person who would listen to this, who would listen to Zach answering the questions in this talk that saves lives, every single one of you, because of a little thing called mirror neurons, you just walked further away from an edge that you might not have even known you were near. As Zach came up with his reasons for staying, your brain was playing along.
Exactly. And that is one of the reasons, Jackie, why we thought, myself and the group of people I work with included here, this is one of the reasons why we thought that this is important enough to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of us is going to heal different.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that everything is out there, because those who aren't comfortable in a buyout setting,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? If that's all you offer them, they're going to walk away from it and nothing's going to change.
Here's what we
This gives us another option. So
yeah, well, I'm going to give you another option. Have you ever heard of the positivity professor? It's a guy named Sean Aker. He's from Harvard University.
I actually have not.
He's not only a graduate of Harvard, he also started their positive psychology department. He's there when that whole thing started. And he delivers what is arguably the funniest TEDx talk of all time. So I'll make sure that you have his name spelled correctly. It's just SHAWNACHOR. And his topic is called The Happiness Advantage. When I was reading through his books, he's written several. He wrote the books before he did the TEDx talk, kind of backwards from the way most people do it. It was his 3rd book where he said, we got it wrong. In the positive psychology world, we were studying what helps people in college and high pressure environments like Harvard, what helps them succeed. And what we were looking for was, how supported are you by your community? So we were asking questions about, did their friends call them? Did they belong to a club? These kinds of questions, and we could find 0 correlation. Year after year, 0 correlation between how well you're supported by your environment and your community and whether or not you thrive and succeed in life. And then we realized we were asking the wrong question. We started asking, what do you do to support your community? How many people do you reach out to in your community each week? And we started asking the opposite question. And what we discovered was an 86% correlation between your involvement actively supporting other people and your ability to thrive in high pressure environments, intense environments, and to succeed in life. The reason we wrote the talk the way we wrote the talk is because when you get the guy and you are asking these questions of someone else, the reality is you are suicide proofing two people. Out a buffer, both of you, backing away from the edge. And what we believe is that if you can build out a big enough buffer to back somebody away from the edge, you will never have to talk them off a ledge. And that's the premise behind what we do. We have tools for intervention. We have the Why Not workbook. Get that for free at the website too. That game I played with you about smoking, where you get ready to argue for what you want by asking them why not keep doing what you don't want. So that's all scripted out for people that they can fill it out like a journal. They can work with that. It's really easy. But we've got a bigger tool now, Zach. Last year, a group of very talented musicians and lyricists wrote a song. You can find it on the before you decide. You want to share that?
Yeah, let me go on ahead and if I have your permission, I would love to share this and share the video with it.
Awesome. That would be great.
All right. Well, here, let me go on ahead and get this set up here real quick. I just so we will go on ahead and play this video so everybody can check out. So do you want to introduce who this is?
The young man's name is Logan Klaus. He was one of the group of lyricists who came together to write the song. It's his image on the cover. It's him with his guitar and the firelight in his face, so you can't really see his features. Behind him is a black lake because it's dark outside of the fire. That night was the last night of his friend alive, and that's why they chose that picture for the cover of this song. And you'll see what comes when he plays this.
Okay, so this is Logan Klaus. Before you decide, and you can find so on your website, correct, Jackie?
Correct. The button that says the song.
Okay, so here we go. Let's go on ahead and share this with everyone.
Listen, I don't wanna wait. I don't want to find out that I asked too late. Don't have to change. There's no need to worry about what you say. It's alright. I'll be many nights. Takes to find your reason why. Or you decide to throw it away. Just know that the storm clouds won't always remain. Or you decide you can't find the way. Just wait for the sun that comes after the rain. Before you decide. Before you decide. Say I know, but I promise I'll go. Oh, the distance I understand. Our position, you don't have to feel so distant. You can stay till it's alright. I'll hear as many nights takes to find your reason why. Before you decide to throw it away, just know that the storm clouds won't always remain. Before you decide you can't find the way, just wait for the sun that comes after the rain. Before you decide. Before you decide. listen. I don't wanna wait. I don't wanna find out that I asked too late.
That was absolutely amazing. It really was. I'm very, very impressed by that. A couple of things that well, and more, but wait till then. Okay. He was playing on my other screen, so a couple things that really caught my eye, and that was it looked like it was every town in America that he was at. I think that makes a huge impact because every kid in the world can see exactly where he was in their town, no matter what their town looks like.
Yeah.
The point, it was also a sighted in one area because you looked over and it was the bigger single family homes. And so I think that was making a really, really good point. And then, just I'll make the commitment. And that was something, the other really words, I'll never say no. Because that's something that we always try to tell people.
Oh, I know how you feel. Oh, hell no, you don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You may, and we try to let people know that look, your situation is different because it's you. That's what makes your situation unique. Is it's you in this situation, and so what got me there is not what got you here. And so that's why we really do. We always try to tell people, don't ever say I know.
Instead, what do you give people to say instead of I know?
Yeah, now you ask them why. What's number 4?
Okay. Yeah, number 4, why stay, but you can't start with why stay.
Right. Yeah.
So it doesn't work well. The first thing, if you think someone is struggling, the first thing is say, I'm here. I got you. I'm not going to leave. And then to them about what's true. Tell me about your worst day. Tell me about your best day. Do you see the grasshopper? Get them grounded. First, you just address the fact that they have emotions. Ask them to what they're feeling. Not a good idea. Better to ask them, do you see the grasshopper? Whatever it is, put them back in touch with their physicality, with their environment. We call it a cup. Get them to say something about something that's concrete, universal, and picturable. That's a cup. Because if they're holding on to something that's real, you've got a better shot.
Jackie, one of the other things, and then Les, I am hoping that you want to jump in here and ask a couple questions. I know I've kind of taken over your guest and I've kidnapped your show here, my friend, but this is just fascinating for me. Jack, one of the Brian gave a wonderful program. Brian pulled the gun out of his mouth when he heard the word God, and where the words of God are not what it takes for everyone. He that is what saved him. But he says, and excuse my language, he says, if you are going to tell people I'm here to listen, get ready, because you can hear some shit. You're going to hear some stuff that you're not ready for, but you have to be ready for.
All right. This is where I can help. This is where Ben and I want to connect. We have the Advocates for Living program. This is the program that builds emotional resilience in you so that you have the ability to listen without judgment. When you have the ability to listen without judgment, when you can listen without making any meaning from their words, when you can listen without judgment, they will feel free to speak without fear. And get them with a professional intervention specialist as soon as you can. That is professional training required to be an intervention specialist. At the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, we can prepare you for whatever could come up in the Talk That Saves Lives, in the Why Not workbook. We've got the training for you. We absolutely want you to be an advocate for living for everyone. And we do not want you to step in where an intervention specialist is needed. Now, I take a lot of flack. I ran the suicide prevention show. I had people call me out for calling it a show. I had people say, your message hit me like a slap in the face. How dare you put suicide prevention and fun in the same sentence? Suicide prevention is a fight, a daily struggle to stay alive. And I said, after some soul searching, who am I? Who do we want to be? And I said, you need intervention. You're already struggling with suicidal thinking. It's too late to prevent you from struggling with suicidal thinking, which is what we do. We prevent the problem from occurring. We are way upstream. And if our message that upstream is fun, that suicide prevention, pure prevention is fun, drives you away from us and into the waiting arms of an intervention specialist, our message is doing its job.
That's fantastic. You're on mute, my friend, or your microphone's off.
About that, I said, I think this is great. I've learned a lot. Understand more how the mind works, and
Wow.
So I think she definitely should be on many stages and get the word out there in different areas, because this has been phenomenal. And I think the teens and the veterans need to know about it.
Can you imagine what would happen in the world if we got teens to have this talk with vets and we got vets to have this talk with teens? We might solve two problems.
Yeah, that's very true.
They all, in my opinion, the guide is really good. Trust me, I've worked on it for years. And I believe they need the Advocates for Living program so that they learn how to have the talk that ends self-sabotage, and the talk that ends bullying, and the talk that ends negative thinking. Those are the other three talks in the training, along with the talk that saves lives. So those are the four components to be an advocate for living. You are prepared to address bullying, to address self-sabotage, to address generalized negative thinking, and to save lives. Because you don't have to, this is what I loved about the lyrics in that song. You don't have to worry about what you're going to say. We've got you covered. We got the guides. Let us help you. Help them.
I again, thank you. This was, as Les said, this was eye-opening, and as much work as you guys put into it to make it as simplistic as what you've done. Let me ask you one last question. Unfortunately, we're coming up to the top of the hour. But let me ask you this question. do parents kind of look at you at first and go, what? No way. There's no way 4 questions are going to save my kid's life.
What they tell me is, not kid, my kid's not in trouble.
Yeah.
And every parent who's looking for signs, if you are waiting for signs, you are looking for trouble, because the reticular activating system is set to a default setting that my child's okay, which means that even if there are signs, your reticular activating system will not let you see them, and it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is the way the world works. And one day you'll understand this. I believe we are in the suicide war with 2 A's. We're all at risk. Once you accept that your child in this day and age, suicide, you want to get scared? Ask your kid what they call suicide in his school. Around where I live and on the internet, teenagers are talking about suicide as self-deleting, like it is no bigger deal than hitting the delete key on a keyboard. Our kids know suicide. You need to know the talk.
They know suicide. They also don't know fear anymore, and they're not afraid of it anymore. They don't see, they're not thinking.
They
They're
lost
not
autism. They can't think about it. Their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go off on 2 tangents here. The first one is they have a thought of leaving. They can't talk about it. Why? Because all the suicide prevention programs out there say, it's safe. Tell us. We're going to love you. And then they see their friends being carted out of the counselor's office in handcuffs, escorted by policemen, and put in the back of a police car and taken into a 72-hour psychiatric hold. That does not feel loving and safe to them. So they are not going to break the silence. That's why it's up to us. It's up to us. And by the way, it's no different with adults. In Florida, we call it the Baker Act. In New York City, the director of the Suicide Institute had a doctor, and the nurse said, great, I've got your intake forms. Oh, wait, do you really want to answer this question this way? The guy says, I'm not going to lie. He's the director of the Suicide Institute. The next thing he knew, he was in a wheelchair with an armed security guard on either side of him, being wheeled into the psychiatric intake ward. The rules are there, and they were designed that seemed like a good idea at the time. And in reality, sometimes it's not. And so once you understand what we're up against, we can say all of the words that we want. If we don't do something different, we're going to lose a generation. We've already now losing 27 veterans a day. The new numbers just came out. It's not getting any better out there, guys. They haven't released the numbers about teenage attempts. It's not getting any better.
No.
The only thing we can do is change what we do. And what we want is for everyone to just say, I might be at risk too, because I know a celebrity chef. I know a talented comedian who took their own life. Maybe I'm at risk too. Let me read the guide. Read it yourself. Read it out loud. Let your reticular activating system get reprogrammed yourself, and you will stop being so afraid. Learn about these simple ways to help break patterns. Because when that kid gets the thought and they're scared to talk about it, what do you do when you're scared about thinking about something? You try not to think about it, right?
Yep.
Try not to think about an elephant. I dare you. Try not to think about an elephant. How many of you have prancing pachyderms in your brain now? What happens when you try not to think about it is you're stuck thinking about trying not to think about it, which is doubling down on it. This creates a negative echo chamber in the brain. Your subconscious mind is elegantly designed to bring about what you think about. This is the law of attraction in action. Now you've got the brain trying to make plans and look for opportunity, what you're thinking about, which is suicide. And all it takes in a teen is for subconscious plan to cross opportunity. And that's why we have jump nets on bridges, because teens are waking up in emergency rooms going, I don't know what happened. And it's true. When you ask a teen, with all blessings to all suicide intervention programs, they are the reason my daughter is still alive, and this is where they're broken and backwards. They say, do you have a plan? The teen, in all honesty, is going to say no, because it's not a conscious plan. This is how your brain really works, guys. And it's working against the teenagers because they don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. They don't have a pause button. They don't have the value of perception. It's not there yet.
Jackie, I'm just going to say all the love in the world to you for what you've done. All the love in the world to your daughter for what you guys have done together. Please keep up all the great work, and feel free to come on and join us at any time, because we want to keep up with what you're doing. I'm going to be reaching out to you in the next couple of days to find out if Community Pay It Forward can lend any assistance to you guys, because we would love to be part. We're going to be talking to one of my long-term great friends and partners here in just a minute, and I think that he was watching a little bit of the show before he came on, and I know that this is something that we've been talking about for a while, just because this is something that, again, it is affecting society now.
Mhm.
It's not affecting a subsect of the society. This is affecting society in a whole. So, but Jackie, once again, it is teensuicideprevention.com.
Teen Suicide Prevention Society. Think
Society.com.
Teaspoons. TSPS. We call it teaspoons.
Well, like I said, and all you have to do is go on there and get the guide here, and the guide is absolutely free, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. So, and free is a really good number for people who want to save someone's life. So I think everyone can afford free when it comes to saving your son or daughter, niece or nephew, or even neighbor's life.
And no one can afford not to, Zach.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Jackie. Like I said, I will be reaching out in the next, probably tomorrow. I am so excited to talk to you. Les, you got anything going on this week? Usually I'm used to listening to you talk, but this became so much huge part of what we've just started to announce here on the PAC channel that, I mean, this just, the flow of this show was just chilling. I mean, I'm still sitting here with goosebumps, but I mean, it's such a great, but thank you for bringing her on.
You bet.
So, Les, you please tell me about how you can help people make some money.
Well, what we're talking about is, in fact, Jackie saw this. She introduced me to doctors. There's a new technology. In fact, how many of you have had a friend or a relative die of a heart attack and you had no concept that they were even sick? Well, that happens. In fact, 70% of the families find out when their relative dies. And when you go into, you can do one of two things: stress test or a blood test. Well, now there's a new technology that a camera that we've had in 180 hospitals for 15 years. And in 10 minutes under the tongue, the doctor can tell you if you have a risk of a heart attack in the next 6 years. And then we have a supplement to restore the circulation so that heart attack doesn't happen. And I'm looking for people that, first off, and this scan's only $300. So introduce me to your doctor. He can buy the camera, and he makes a lot of money in saving your life. But at the same time, I'm looking for medical device salespeople that know the doctors. I'm looking for influencers. And we're talking, with this camera and everything, we're talking 6 and 7 figures for influencers really in the medical or natural health field. And so I'd love to talk to anybody that has always wanted to work with doctors but didn't know how. This is the way to do it. And we can support them, and you'll make, like I said, 6 figures.
I appreciate it so very much, Les. As always, we will see you again in a month, and I mean, bravo, my friend, bravo, bravo, bravo. What a great job, Jackie. I cannot thank you enough for coming and being